Hello again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome back to Talking Town, the show created for fans by fans of Ipswich Town. And joining me this evening is the media mogul himself, Matthew Phillips, and Mr. Don't Look Back in Anger, Lee Anderson. Now, as always, this show is available on all major audio platforms, whether you're watching live. Please do get active in our live chat to see with your opinions, catching up on with YouTube later on, comment for the algorithm, or listening on any audio platform, leave that 5-star review. And thank you for choosing Talking Town. Before we get stuck in, the show is partnered with Match Bingo. Remember the word town, all in caps, and Stowmarket Osteopaths. But more on both of those a little bit later on. And while you're here, please do us a favour. If you like your town news, views, fan opinion and more, hit the subscribe button. We know that 36% of you aren't yet subscribed, and why not? It's free, it's easy, helps us to grow, and you never miss a show. So win, 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 win. Right, let's be honest. Last night was, in my opinion, awful. A huge chance moving to third, really capitalised on the momentum built from beating Norwich, and well, we didn't do it. We looked flat, leggy, and frustrating. You name it, it probably was it. And there's lots of opinions flying about. And this is where we want you to get involved tonight, okay? So if you're watching live with us, you can join us by hitting the link in the live chat. Come on and have your say and tell other ITFC fans what you thought about last night. Or, and we've got some voicemails coming up, leave us a voice message at speakpipe.com/talkingtown. It's free, it's easy, and you don't even need to leave your name. You can do it anonymously. Look at that. So come on, have your say. There's absolutely no excuse. All right, let's kick things off, as we always do, with our Town in 60 Seconds segment. In this segment, each of our Town fans on the screen get just 60 seconds to get it all off their chest. And as you are the seasoned podcaster, Mr. Matthew Phillips, I thought I'd come to you tonight with our 60 seconds. I'm sure you've seen many nights like last night over the years supporting Town, but this 60 seconds where you can put your praise, your rants, your questions, or my personal favourites, just passion, just your heartfelt passion speech. So 60 seconds are yours, my friend. Over to you.
Well, look, obvious disappointment, wasn't it, to lose 2-1? But we did say it was going to be a tough game as well, given that Borough are sitting in second. I think the biggest problem we've got at the moment is we're seeing two Ipswich Towns. One's at Pullman Road and one's on the road on their travels. And the two are completely different. I mean, you just look at the attacking prowess we had against Norwich, albeit a very poor Norwich side. Of course, they've lost again, 6th game on the trot, Lee. Yeah. Carrow Road, as Colin was delighting in telling me earlier. Very poor team against a side that's pushing for automatics in Borough last night. But Ipswich are just sort of Jekyll and Hyde. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Villagine is Jekyll and Hyde. Fantastic at Pullman Road. Had the least amount of touches. And the Riverside last night of an outfield player. So he doesn't have the same impact at home or away. And I think really last night we had just too many players were 6 out of 10 and below. I mean, Palmer was probably man of the match, wasn't he? But you could look at the entire defence as maybe being average, maybe take O'Shea out of that. Midfield wasn't really functioning properly. I mean, Philogene, Smodics, Eagley, no impact whatsoever. Hurst gets a moment to do something, misses the pen. Says it all.
Absolutely. So lots to unpack there. And we've already got people asking for the link in the chat. Love to see it. Trevor says, just listen to Canary Call. That cheered me up. David, one of our YouTube members, welcome in. David Hurst needs to be dropped. Hasn't played well for a while. We've got Colin saying nobody likes losing. But we have to get on with it on Tuesday night and next Saturday. 6 points and we'll be okay again. It is what it is. Come on, you Blues. Ashley Bell. Got to take max points from Charlton and West Brom now. 12th with this squad is dreadful, says Ashley Bell. Lee Anderson, 60 seconds. Go for it, my friend. Let it rip.
I think when you look at the first half an hour, I thought it was a really good away performance. I thought we had control of the game. It was looking good. And then we just had what we've seen before. We had this sort of mad 15 minutes, 20 minutes either side of half time. And we've seen this before, where all of a sudden the game opened up, but it was to and throw in. Great for the neutral. But then I thought, McKenna's not going to like this. And then we get the penalty and we miss. And then within 2 minutes, a team that's going to win top 2, there's 2 moments that both have to go for you. The first one is the pen. You can't go to a team like Borough, who are looking to go top, who are a decent side to be fair, and miss the pen. You've got to put that away. You've got to put the pen away, and then we can blame Kipri for the goal. He took a slight deflection, but Davis has got to do better. If you're going to win at those places away from home, you've got to be resolute in your defending. And Davis falls over. He's not strong enough, and I think that's the problem with the goal. Second half, the midfield, what we did in the first 30 minutes of the first half, we didn't do in the second half. So there's no consistency there. We looked spread apart. They were getting their right winger, their left winger. They were getting free space around the edge of the box, and that led to the goal. And I think that momentum really, really sort of went against us. But we did come back with a goal, but we didn't really threaten enough. So from that respect, lots to do. Really Jekyll and Hyde.
All right. Rob says that Middlesbrough are nothing special, but we made them look good. I know you said they're a decent side, and the league position certainly says they're a decent side, and they are a decent side, albeit they were in a little bit of I wouldn't say a slump, but I think their last win was the 19th of September, beaten by Portsmouth before the break. And Rob says they were nothing special, but we made them look good. Simon says no leaders, no organisation. Best centre midfield player in the league. No chance based on first 10 games. Striker, mid-table quality is defence. Lots of interesting comments. Simon says, again, a frustrating 24 hours later. McKenna's lucky we have patient owners. Otherwise, gone by now. We have a mid-table team. And I did give you slightly longer than 60 seconds there, Lee, because I thought you could take some of my 60 seconds, because I won't need the whole 60 for what I'm going to...
You need to put a timer up. I'm going to
say. I did. I just took it off. I'll let him go. I'll let him go. I'll let him go, because you can take some of mine. Because mine's quite simple. It's three things, really. First of all, we have not learned in 18 months. Our game management, either side of the half-time, is not good enough. It wasn't good enough in the Premier League. And last night, it was in full evidence of it not being good enough again. We give a sloppy ball into midfield. They launch a counter-attack off dispossessing Kayust, 2v1. Palmer makes a great save. But from there, the momentum, Big Mo is riding with Middlesbrough. It's firmly on Middlesbrough's dugout at that point. And we don't really recover. And then, of course, we give away a sloppy goal just before half-time. Then at half-time, Rob Edwards, I'm sure, is probably saying in the dressing room, next goal wins it, lads. Go for it. Step on the gas. Don't hold back. Go full throttle. And we've got to come out of that dressing room knowing that and being quite prepared to play in their half, perhaps get it away from our box, not be the way we want to be normally. And we don't do it. It's game management either side of halftime. Game's done and dusted, and we've not learned from that. That's my 60 seconds. It's simple as that. We've not learned in 18 months, Matt, that we stood in the Premier League with Newcastle at home. I know we got absolutely royally beaten that day, but we roll the ball into Muric. He rolls it back. We concede before half-time. That game's done and dusted. And last night, either side of half-time, the way we approach that second half for me, when you probably should be aware Middlesbrough are going to fly out of the traps, it just wasn't good enough. Wasn't good enough.
No, exactly that. Although you were predicting we would come back and win the game at half-time. But
because I expected a reaction. I expected to see a reaction from that.
It was always going to be difficult. And what did we concede on the 10 minutes into the second half? The Whittaker goal. Again, too many static blue shirts in that box. I mean, is that Stenkel? I think it was on the right-hand side. Sticks it in. Palmer palms it out straight to Whittaker. But you got Eagerly watching. Kipre's in there. O'Shea's in there. Furlong's in there. Matassi was in there. No,
that second goal. What the second goal?
Stop it. None of them stop it.
The second goal.
Yeah.
I think O'Shea, for me, does he ever look round, Lee, O'Shea, to see if there's any danger in behind him when that ball drops on that right-hand side? I've looked at it back. I can't see him check a glance and see where the danger is.
I think it's more about getting the midfielders back. I think if you're a centre-back and you're looking at the line of the ball and the ball comes in, I think, I don't think you can blame Palmer, because how it dropped on that half volley, all he can do is get it away from the defender. That's his first job. There was no cover behind. In the modern game, we seem to get all back fours seem to want to keep run in line and sit on the 6-yard box. And Chaplin has scored, and we've scored lots of goals as a result of that, where we get that person on that, and that's how they scored that second goal. So we're dropping everybody back as you're coached, but there's no midfield, and I think that 10 of I sort of said it in my I guess, 80 seconds or 90 seconds that he gave me. That second half, there was a big gap between the midfield and the defence. And when that ball broke and they were getting the ball continuously out to their right-sided midfielder, their left wing, right wing, and there was no cohesion between the middle and the back, and that's where the goal came from. You know, he's come in that area behind the defence where you'd expect Chaplin to score, and it just felt like we were all over the place. It almost reminded me of Sunday League in terms of defending and not having any cohesion at the back, and I think that led to the goal. It falls that way, and we're all over the place, the place.
Yeah, and we'll focus on the flashpoints in a moment. But I floated on yesterday's show, Matt, the match reaction show. At what point do you start to really examine your formation away from home? And Steve said no team plays more than one formation. One formation is the way forward. But this 4-2-3-1 away from home, particularly away from home, when teams perhaps are on the front foot and want to press you a little bit more and are prepared to be braver than they perhaps are at Portman Road. At what point do you start to think, you know what, this isn't quite working away from home? We're not getting the results. We're not getting the performances in some games. And you start to really look at your formation and think about changing things up away from home.
Well, I mean, I doubt that's ever going to happen because McKenna's not done it before. I just think
we've seen it, Matt. We've seen it at Portman Road when teams press us, like last week, Norwich, first 15 minutes. That ball was hitting the east and west advertising boards more than it was a town player from our back five. Because when they're pressed, arguably, are they all, ball-playing defenders? They're good defenders, but are they the ball-playing defenders that can deal with the tight press?
I think what McKenna actually defaults to normally is a change of personnel. And I was expecting McAteer to be on that right-hand side last night, and I was very surprised that Eagley was in there, as he was. I feel sorry for Eagley a little bit. Comes with the fanfare, 20 mil, whatever, Championship Football League record. Yeah, everyone's expecting great things from him, but he was on the periphery last night. I'd even forgot he was on the pitch in the first half. Hence, I thought McAteer, who I know Town fans have been critical of, which I find interesting because I think Eagley's only been marginally better, like I say, because he comes with fanfare. But I think what McAteer brings that McKenna likes was probably the tracking back and helping out in that defence, which is what we're all moaning about right now. So I think he doesn't go for formation changes. He goes for personnel ones. And one I do think is a surprise for me, which I thought we would see a lot away from home, was Núñez coming in. And we obviously saw him in the Bristol City game where we had a lot of possession. And obviously we draw that game, don't we, without having too much cutting edge really. And actually we had to rely on a penalty, didn't we, to get the point. But I thought he would be the kind of guy that can unlock the doors with his passing. And to be fair to I've been critical of Hughes. I think he was great last night, but he was still showing movement with the ball, that little pirouette he does and tries to press away and get an attack going. We were seeing that. But Núñez is just different gravy, I think, in terms of just playing the quarterback, as we like to call it.
Okay, so if not a change of formation, do at times you have to move away from your principles away from home. Do you have to be quite prepared to go longer, play the percentage game in their half, and abandon a little bit the principles of playing out from the back at times?
Well, yeah, because I don't know what you think, Lee. I've said it on this show several times. I don't think we're very good at playing out from the back, and we don't clear the ball quicker either. You saw that a lot last night where the ball was pinballing around our box. And people are too busy head tennising the ball out of the box or just floating it out there. And it gives Middlesbrough another second phase to attack. And, the ball's falling to Hackney, who got man of the match last night on Sky, a player we obviously coveted in the summer. It just starts another attack. It's just I don't know. It's the dithering and dallying about with the ball when they could just be Rosehead. I mean, you've got to Rosehead it at times, haven't you?
Yeah. No, well, there was two people watching that game last night, Gareth Pallister and Tony Mowbray, and they would have definitely Rosehead it and cleared your lines and your defensive principles firstly.
Shane Kipre didn't Rosehead it on that clearance.
But this is it. But he's trying to roll that ball, and we'll do the flash points now. Then I guess in association with Match Bingo. Don't forget we are partnered with Match Bingo. Remember the word town all in caps because we've teamed up to give you a deposit bonus. You can get a 100% deposit bonus using the word town all in caps. Deposit minimum is £10, and while it's bonus cash and can't be withdrawn, the winnings can be. Get a 100% bonus deposit bonus by using the word town, all in caps, and combine the excitement of live sport with the thrill of bingo. Terms and conditions apply. Please gamble responsibly. Visit begambleaware.org for more information. Head to Match Bingo, scan the QR code on the screen next to their logo, or head to the description and click the link to play. Over 18s only. Be gamble aware. So yeah, that first goal, Lee, and I know it's not a result of the ball into the halfway line, but it does start the wave of momentum for Middlesbrough, and particularly on that ball from Kipri into the midfield on the halfway line. I don't know why he's trying to make that pass, because Kayusta's got a Middlesbrough player haring down on him, who will have the momentum of coming onto the ball in order to steal it. And once he does steal it, they are 2-3v1, and away they go. I just think it needs to be a simple, isn't on, diagonal to Egley. At the very worst, it's a throw in by the corner of their 18-yard box.
If it sometimes it can look really ugly. I think if Kipri gets the ball, the pass isn't on, we're set up to try to play the ball out, and it's not on, and we kick it long. I'm going back to McCarthy days, or not even McCarthy, some other time, and the ball just comes back again. If we keep doing that, then the fans are going to think, what's this about? But it's about balance, isn't it? And I think one of the questions that we always ask is about being overcoached. And there comes a point where it's ingrained in you. You talk about principles, and it goes back to Matt's points about formations and what you said about principles. It's not about formation. It's never about formations. It's about principles and how you're coached and how you're asked and how you want to play. And what is clear is the principle is that we're going to play out of the back, through the lines, and if we do that more often than not, we're going to reap the rewards. Now, at some point, that either works or it doesn't, and you have to think. So I would like to think that if you're coaching players, that you have those principles, but there comes a point where you think it has to go wrong. And again, we've said it before, hindsight will always drive the narrative. And I think with Palmer, there's sometimes with Palmer where you think, just get, it's got to go. And I think you have to understand your own capabilities as a footballer sometimes. And you think, well, am I going to be able to put that pass into there? I'm being told to, but I'm going to kick it, and I'm going to kick it long. I don't think we've got a culture at the club where McKenna's going to pull Kipri in and say, why did you kick that long? I told you to play that into feet. If he says, didn't fancy it, boss, because it didn't feel right to me and I wanted to clear my lines, then I think McKenna's going to accept that. So I think it's a real fine balance. And we just got punished, we got punished for it. And you mentioned the Norwich game. Yes, for the first 25 minutes, they had a press, a bit like we did yesterday. We pressed that moment, but you're going to try to get out of that press. If you're looking at your principles, the principle is if you keep doing it, eventually Norwich are going to tire and you're going to get out. But this season, it's not happening as much as it did the season we were last in the Championship. And I think that's where we're saying.
And my return to that is also, I mentioned how Norwich pressed and we weren't comfortable in that first 10, 15 minutes, because I was highlighting, the ability to play out with the ball. And I think away from home, particularly, Matt, there's principles, but then there's also understanding context of games. Last 10 minutes of the first half, first 10 minutes of the second. I would, if I was manager, I would have told Schmonics to be ready to be running in behind Hurst, because the ball from our two centre halves is going to be hitting George Hurst. If you can't hold it up, he's flicking it on and he's going to win it, aren't you, George? Because that would have been how I got us through the first 10 minutes of what I would have expected a Middlesbrough wave of momentum to fly out of the second half and try and end the game and make it a 2-0 game. Equally, same in the first half. That momentum is whipping up. Palmer is making save after save, who I thought had a phenomenal game yesterday. You've got to at some point say, we'd love to have our principles. We love to have our philosophy of playing out, beating the press, but we need to just see this through and get in at half-time 0-0 after George Hurst has missed what was, I thought, a terrible penalty.
It was. It'd be interesting, isn't it? Nearly everyone I've spoken to about this, I don't know what you thought, Lee. No one was confident in Hurst taking the pen.
No, I wasn't either.
We've been reliant on Jack Clark taking them, haven't we? Because he's not on the pitch. So it went to Hurst. And, that penalty at St Andrews in a real pressure cooker situation was really good. But as some of the comments have said here, ever since, the last 10 weeks ago, ever since then, really, he's not really looked the the same, and it wasn't a great penalty at all. It was very easily savable for that Sol Bryn, who was on loan at Leyton Orient, I think, last season, so playing a division below. But it was an easy save for him. I mean, that's where the game is lost, actually, isn't it? As you rightly say, Lee. 44th minute, we get the pen, missed. They go down the other end within 2 minutes. They're 1 up. So we've gone from going in at half time at 1-0 up to going in at the break 1-0 down. And then you've got an uphill battle to climb over there, haven't you? We have been very lucky with penalties this season. We've said this before on the show as well. Ipswich are getting lucky. Well, the luck ran out last night, didn't it? Because they got another pen right on the break. I mean, it was perfect timing. Right on the break. They kick off. We probably all go back in. Happy days. Now we can consolidate at the Riverside and frustrate their fans and hopefully go on and get the 3 points. And it just didn't, it ran out for us. There's big question marks about Hurst, isn't there? I see Colin put in a team. He sent it to me earlier on WhatsApp. He would play Ivan on Tuesday night. I mean, there's a question mark around him as well. And this comes back to my eternal question. There is question marks around the number 9. You're not seeing Akpom in there. Hurst is misfiring. Ivan's still finding his feet at this division. And then behind him, you've got Smodix, who looks nothing like the player that scored 30 goals in this division nothing but 2 years ago. Ditto Akpom. He's gone back to the stadium. He scores 30 goals in. You barely knew he was on the pitch when he came on, albeit in different circumstances, I suppose. Lots of question marks away from home. The away form is making Ipswich suffer. Our home form might still have us on the periphery, the top 6, but we've got a chance to put it right, haven't we? Winnable games against Charlton, West Brom, I would wager at Fulham Road.
And finally on that first half, Lee, I noticed the last press conference with Kieran McKenna was on Town TV, and you could watch it. Great to see, and you could see who was asking questions. You can hear the questions. One of the questions I would like to ask, if I was able to, or whoever was in the room to ask, is pretty much what Mike D said. Where is Delap's replacement? Because you've brought in Akpom and then allowed Connor Chaplin to go, indicating you see him more as a 10, and he's played in that position more than he has a centre forward. You've only got George Hurst and Azon. And Azon was a deal that was on, off, and then eventually we got it over the line for whatever reason it may well have been. Where is the Delap replacement? You knew your centre forward was leaving in April, and it's a little bit lackluster in one of the most important positions of the field. And when you look at the midfield, the way they've upgraded that position and gone to work in the market and bringing those players back in, Kayus back to the club, Nunez, Matasiwa, I would have loved to have seen the same happen up front. That's the most important position on the field.
I think Delap's replacement, we can't afford it. Simple as that. Who do we get? Where do we go? And who do we get? And I agree with Mike, where is that? But we didn't have Delap in the Championship. We had George Hurst.
And Kiefer Moore.
And Kiefer Moore. But we had George Hurst for the first half of the season. And when he got injured, we were in the top 2 or 3. Now I'm not saying that I agree that Hurst has he gone backwards? He's not progressed perhaps as much as the club wanted to. And I think Hurst is probably more in the team for his way to play in the system than he is to score goals. Now,
are you getting that at the moment? That?
No, absolutely. Well, no, and that's the point. I think, too many heavy touches yesterday. There was one touch where he went to knock the ball back into midfield and actually went to one of their players, and they're turning on and they're on the counter and they're on the counter attack straight away. I don't think so. If you're a striker, I think you can be judged 2 ways. 1, on the goals you score, and 2, on what you bring to the team. And at the moment, he's under par for both. So he's not either one or the other. And I think that's the issue. I just, with Azon, when you watch him from afar, he's always looking to make those runs in behind. He's a different type of striker.
Yeah, agreed.
That offers you something different. So I think when you're looking to set your team up, Hurst is in because he plays the system better. And that's why maybe Azon is coming in as a sub. But just on Smodix, yes, he's not scored this season, but he's looked more of a goal threat than probably most, apart from Philogene and Clark coming on. He's looked the most likely one. He's looked more busier. He's looked the one that's had those half chances. He's had a couple of not one-on-ones as such, but he's running those channels and he's just had a little bit of heavy touch. He's just taken the ball too wide. And yesterday he had that header that was cleared. It was, if that defender hadn't been there, that ball would have gone in. But that header that he had that was just behind him, it wasn't right for him. And Azon's shot that come off the post, Smodics is there, so is Clark. It falls to Clark. So I think with Smodics, I think it's gonna come good. You can still see the threat. You can still see the threat there with him.
Agreed.
But that's
and I don't want to criticise a player that clearly is playing, through the pain barrier and giving it all for his football club. We know he's in a boot, the injections, I think was said at the press conference. So he's leaving it all on the field for this football club, and that is all we ask as fans. And that he will come good. I completely and utterly agree with you. Upper Town, one of our YouTube members got a question for you, Matt. Anyone think the players look fed up? They don't seem to want to be here. Insincere, we'll disconnect with each other, and I can't find myself warming to them like I have done in previous squads. And that sort of comment breaks my heart a little bit, because after last week's, I thought where the whole group grew in front of the fans' eyes, and the disconnect, that Upper Town says there, was broken, and we connected as a new squad and a fan base, and we could go forward. It's a real kick in what's after this result in that regard, because it brings back that conversation, which I don't want to have that conversation, because I don't particularly believe it, in all honesty.
No, I don't. No, I don't either, really. I mean, look, we sat here a fortnight ago and saying how fantastic it was that this team had suddenly given, a new side, new players, new era back in the Football League, had suddenly given the fan base that moment that we were lamenting that we were losing, because you're saying goodbye to Wolfie and Chaplin, etc. So, yeah, I don't think you could be that flaky, really, over the case of a fortnight, really, to be honest with you. I think they were just disappointed with the result. That it depends how blue tinted glasses I'm going to look at this. They've lost to we've missed the penalty. We've scored an own goal. Arguably, the second goal could have been offside. You could argue, me and Mike were debating this quite heavily on WhatsApp. You could argue the first Hurst shot that hits that kid's hand, was it Jones in the first half? I think if that had been in the Premier League, goal bound shot, stopped by an arm, hand, whatever, that would have been given. I think. As with
their second, if you got the offsides VAR, you've got that. That's probably ruled out. We've seen that. But then you're splitting hairs and you're all clutching.
Yeah, exactly. We are. Yeah, exactly. Spilt milk now, isn't it? Look, we've got two very winnable games coming up in, as I say, Charlton on Tuesday and West Brom next Saturday lunchtime. Very good chance that we could win both of those, given how well we've seen Cameron Road. Therefore, in a week's time when we're doing this show, it'll all be, I don't know, cupcakes and sunshine again, won't it? You know what I mean?
It will be. You're going to have to, but we'll obviously do that. We're going to do the match preview after this, and they'll be out by tomorrow, where we sort of discuss that a little bit more. We've got STST. I predict we won't get top 2 this year. I think a close third, fourth, but these players need to go through some shit to get the camera.
Well, I think top 2 is difficult now. Top 2, we're 9 behind Coventry and 8 behind Middlesbrough, and we've scored 2 goals away from home, both penalties.
Yeah, the away form is a real struggler for me, and it's the game management. I said at the start of the show, it's the feeling that we've not learned how to game manage the most important moments of games, particularly away. Either side of half time, where you can just lose a game in that 20 minutes, and we did.
You're right. I mean, but then you look at just some of the defensive positioning. We talk about Atley, right? There was 2 elements in that game last night where the ball got played out to the left. I'm going, where the hell's Furlong? Weren't even there. And then there was another attacking threat where Furlong's having to play left back because Davis has gone walkabout. So, I mean, that's not particularly McKenna style football, is it? To be, I know he likes people to press forward, but to be so far out of position that your right back is now having to cover left back because he's gone walkabout. He had a funny game, Davis, last night. I said to Crunch on the phone, it felt to me like that was one of his worst games in a blue shirt. Like he was, like Lee says, he falls over for the goal. I mean, he did win the penalties. Fair play to him. But the set piece delivery was awful. The free kick on the edge of the box, you got Philogene over it. I saw Colin said earlier, why didn't he take the penalty? Well, Philogene with either right or left foot on the edge of the box, you feel like he's going to hit the target. Davis takes it. It's the bleeding wall. He was just all over the shop. Now, I don't want to leave Davis on a negative. If you look at the stats, he actually won the most duels in the game last night. That's gone under the radar a little bit. Maybe I'm being too harsh. People tell me what they think in the comments there. But look, Leaf has been fantastic for its assist record and all that. And he's not a robot, and he will have bad games. But it just like, how's your luck? He falls over on the right hand side of the box. The kid gets to the byline, puts the ball in. Kipré double kicks it into our net.
Yeah,
Everything was just compounding at once, wasn't it?
Yeah, €20 donation from David, and David was also very kindly gifted a Talking Town membership to one lucky person. David, your generosity is such appreciated here. Thank you ever so much for doing what you do for the community. So that's one extra member we've got, and a €20 donation. Thank you or super sticker as it's called. Thank you ever so much, David. Appreciate it. Right, let's have some from the stands. We've got Colin joining us very shortly. Just some voicemails. Should we see what the community think?
Go for it.
Yeah. So every week we have a voice messaging service where you can leave your voice messages before the game, during the game, after the game, 2 in the morning, 10 in the morning while you're making a cup of tea. Whenever it just strikes you that you need to tell somebody your town opinion. I know this morning I was pacing up and down the room outside here, dining room is what I call it. There we go. It comes to me eventually. And I was
you're pacing up and down.
I was pacing while talking about last night, and I was just sort of muttering about game management and principles. And I reckon if the neighbours could hear me, that I must have thought I was having an argument, but there was nobody here except me. So I really needed the voice message service. I should have used it. I didn't. But if you want to, you can use it. It's speakpipe.com/talkingtown. And here, right now, are this week's voice messages.
What can I say? We're pedestrian performance. Too many mistakes at the back. Despite Palmer's best effort, he can only do so much. Just utterly shit away.
Okay, I'm going to try and do my best to unpick that, because it was a fucking shambles. So, playing as individuals, no cohesion as a team, far too open at the back. The left-hand side is always our biggest threat, and I think we're so reliant on that. We're reliant on Philogene coming up with a bit of magic, or Davis overlapping. The rest, like Schmodix at the 10 and the right-hand side for me, are a massive concern. Hurst, he's just dropped off a cliff this season. And if Matasiwa doesn't control the midfield with Kajust, then we are in massive doo-doo. Positives. Agreed. Palmer, I suppose. That's about it, really.
He's looking for a positive.
What a bump back down to reality after the highs of beating Norwich to a lacklustre result against Middlesbrough. We need to sort out our away form. McKenna has been caught out lacking it yet again. Tactics too predictable. Our backline just looked completely useless today, and our front line was no better. We seem to have one competent penalty taker, and he's not on the pitch most of the time.
So let's talk about Kajust. Yep, clearly an unbelievable player, clearly going to be a big asset for us in midfield like it was last season. But last night I just felt he just looked lethargic, didn't look up for it, and I also don't feel we're playing to his strengths. I really think we need to get him more involved, and I wonder if that was it last night.
Sheer disappointment, unfortunately. I went into it quite positive, thinking that we could possibly have a win here. Why not? Having said that, our away record is pretty bad, as we all know that. But I am rather concerned because, obviously, if it wasn't for Alex Palmer, the score could have been huge. But he was my obvious man of the match, as he probably is a lot of people. But we seem to have got it okay on the left, but on the right is a bit of concern. We need the likes of Burns and sort of one or two others to create something down there. You know, I try not to criticise players too much, but you know that there's no firepower there. We lacklustre, and all the excitement we had of the Norwich game is gone into oblivion now. Hopefully by Tuesday, when I eventually get back by then for Portman Road, we can put that behind us. But yes, it could have been so different. We could have had 3 points, gone third, but we are obviously a long way away from that. So let's hope it all changed by Tuesday. Uptown.
Uptown. There we go. That's your voicemails for this week. I've got a couple of questions from those callers, those voice messages. So thank you very much for leaving them. You can leave them ahead of Tuesday whenever. It's open 24/7. Lee, I'll start with you. Caller number 2. It's like I feel like Cilla Black. Caller number 2 has it mentioned, you know, we're just waiting for Philogene to have a bit of magic, and that's how we're getting by. how have we come to that away from home after the window we've had?
Well, you can't, can you? You can't rely on one player to score a worldie every week. That's not going to get you through. That's not going to get you through the season. So I guess that's what the caller is referring to. Now, he scored some worldies, but they were based on possession in the game, having more possession of the ball further up the pitch, that sort of thing. But I think yesterday we didn't have any of that at all, did we? There wasn't really any real spark of someone that's really going to grab that game by the scruff of the neck. I mean, I mentioned earlier about Smodic's always looked, a danger and was lively around, but we never really, it's almost like what I felt like I was sitting there waiting for Philogene to do some magic. And if that's the case, then you're not going to progress in this league. No. It's got to be spread across the board more than that. And I think our right hand side, I think Matt mentioned it earlier. I think our right hand side was a bit null and void, I guess. But you've got to stay with it. You've got to stay with Egley because we had the same with Omari 2 years ago.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So you've got to stay with that, I guess. But yeah, it's got to be more than Philogene. It's got to be.
Yeah, and just have just to have that many players that you can't quite get the best out of. Smolix, Akpom, Egley, McAteer, you've bought in for £12 million. Jack Clark, all these different players, and you're relying on a bit of magic is a little bit of a concern. And obviously, it's still early in the season. I know it's 10 games in now, but it's still early doors in the Championship. But caller number 3 mentioned Kayust and wanted to have a conversation about Kayust, Matt. And it's an interesting one, that, because I think he is one of the best ball playing centre midfield players in the Championship. I've not seen them all, but from what I've seen so far, he's one of the best ball playing midfield or ball carrying midfield players in the Championship. But the caller said, are we getting the best out of him? And I suppose I put the question as he was speaking is Kayust a midfield player that you can play away from home?
Well, we touched on this a bit earlier, didn't we? The caller called him an unbelievable player. Well, if he was unbelievable, he wouldn't be playing in the Football League for one thing. I would say Hackney is an unbelievable player at this level. Hence the reason he got man of the match last night and did exactly what Lee said there, that our midfield or starting 11 didn't do. Take the game by the scruff of the neck and make things happen. And Hackney did it, which is why McKenna wanted to buy him in the summer. And we obviously came very close. Would have been interested to see if the Kayust deal would have gone through if Hackney had come. But I've never been totally, like long-term watchers of the show, and I've never been totally sold on Kayust, to be honest with you. I know Lee really likes him. What I've seen actually in the last month or so in the performances at home have been very good, especially in that Portsmouth game. I thought he was fantastic in that. And he played well against Norwich. But I mean, he didn't do too bad.
That's why I asked if he's a midfield player. You can start away from home, or is he more suited to a home game when the teams are a little bit?
Where does this leave? Again, it comes back to my point I was wanting to make. Where does this leave Nunez? Because you just pay because Kayust is a Napoli player on loan from Italy. Nunez is our player. Yet we're prioritising Kayust over him at the moment. Now we don't know whether or not what Nunez's fitness is like. I know he did get an injury at Norwich, didn't he? Before he came to us. I do think you'll probably see Nunez maybe at home on Tuesday. But again, it just seems everyone's performances. I'm not just singling him out. Everyone's performances away from home have to be better. They have to be better. They're not good enough.
But for me, it comes a point when you stop saying individual performances have to be better, and actually, what's the game plan? Is it suitable to what we need to do away from home? You can't keep having this many bad performances away from home without, and saying it's individuals. When you're right, it is individuals, but the game plan equally has to be examined.
Yes, but we didn't take our chances either, did we? Like we said earlier, you got the pen, you got a golden chance right on the break to go in 1-0 up. That changes team talks and everything. They always say, don't concede on the break, don't they, Lee? Because that changes everyone's team talk in the dressing room. And Ipswich didn't, for whatever reason, it was a bad penalty. So we didn't help ourselves.
Yeah. Can I just come on the Kayust discussion there with Matt? So what was noticeable yesterday was that Matasiwa and Kayust has come up to the strongest midfield pairing of the season so far. That's clear. Now, that was more of a battle. So I think for Kajust and Matasiwa to shine and be above the other two, I think what we've seen so far, we're expecting that every week. But I think what we've got to realise is that they were up against a much stronger midfield than they had previously come up against. So I think to judge them on that solely, to say they're tired and that sort of, I don't quite buy into that. What I think was the midfield battle was just more of a even battle because of the opposition. So I think we have to give credit, and Matt, you did, talking about Hackney. I think you've got to give credit to the opposition and realise what they are up against in terms of the midfield.
You're right, and they did hold their own, didn't they? In spells, like you said, like the first half an hour where we started growing into the game a little bit before it all went a bit crazy, like when it turned into the basketball game that it was. Actually, I was thinking, I was thinking Q-Stay's doing all right. Matasiwa looks quite comfortable, but for whatever reason, suddenly you start getting these gung-ho moments, like we say.
You've not managed it.
Furlong's gone missing. Yeah, exactly that. The Kipre pass into the centre. It's interesting. People are saying, "Oh, well, Greaves must return Tuesday."
I know.
It's only like a couple of weeks back. Everyone's going, "You've got to be playing Kipre over Greaves."
Yeah,
it's like, I become Maldini.
Yeah, I think as fans, we're all looking for a scapegoat, and we all want to blame somebody. But Greaves, if you look at Greaves' stats, I think he's one of the top defenders in.
He is
stat-wise in
aerial
the
duels
and playing forward. Now that, you can't just rely on stats because you've got to see what's in front of you. But I think the way it is at the moment, Kipre is flavour of the month. Now, he was a bit unfortunate with the own goal because it takes a different. Anybody knows, the way he was standing in the box. Yes, he's got to get his feet right, but he's taken that sort of deflection where all of a sudden you've got to adjust your feet. If you look at the ball that comes in, so again,
deviate.
Yeah, it deviates, and it's generally you're not going to see top players in the world fall for that. I guess, but had that been Greaves with the the flack that he's getting at the moment, I'm not sure he's got Kipre's got a little bit in the bag because he's had a couple of good games. So I think we all just as fans we all react to it, but I think we all just need to keep our feet on the ground and think that we've got decent championship defenders, and whoever comes in, we've got a back. So that really
People
unfortunate.
Demand perfection, they don't know. People demand perfection. Greaves wasn't giving you perfection, therefore Kipre must come in. He has 2 really good games. Then last night he doesn't play so well, makes mistakes, scores an own goal. Get him gone. Get Greaves.
It's not. It's how we all are as fans, isn't it? It's just that, but that
it is.
But the reality of picking a football team, that's not how it works, and it's all about the collective 11, really, isn't it? I mean, who's calling for Leif Davis to be dropped?
Well, exactly,
because he got pushed off the ball quite easily for the first goal. So really, if I'm Kipre at half time, I'm going in there and I'm getting Davis and saying, "Oh, you weak sod," because So there's all the build up to that. And we have to, as fans, we see that moment and we're all,
Leif gets the free
sort of thing. But
Leif gets the free ride a little bit, doesn't he? Because we've got Townsend's obviously out for the season pretty much. Ashley Young can go in there, can't he? But he's 40. And then, as you were saying to us before we come on air, where else Ben Johnson gone? He can play left back if needed, or right back, or whatever. He seems to have disappeared off the radar. Unless he's injured, and I don't know about it. Not heard anything.
So Craig says, Craig Winchester, one of our YouTube members. Appreciate you being a YouTube member, Craig. Kaius looks good, but needs assists or goals. A bit like Luca a few seasons ago. Town fans love them, but the numbers don't stack up. And I do like Kaius. Hopefully, you and your wife, Craig, can join us on the 6th of December. We're having a Members and Voices night out in Ipswich, a few drinks and a meal. Information is on our YouTube post for members and in the Discord as well. Leighton, we have 2 golden boots. They know where the goal is. We don't need 2 left wingers. We need left backs. Yeah, but the question is, we've got 2 golden boots, says Leighton, but we can't get them firing. Like, we've got all that quality at the disposal, and we can't seem to get like Shami Spodix going, and we can't seem to get others going, and it's frankly depressing.
And in the player we all wanted to stay, he's sent on loan to Fratton Park in Champlin.
Oh, let's not start that conversation again. He ain't the way. Do you know what? Every passing week we pick up 3 points. Connor Chaplin gets better as a player.
I mean,
By the time he returns in January, we'll be thinking we're getting.
He will be back.
We're getting
the fact that Smodics is in and out of
type player returning to the football club.
The fact that Smodics is in and out of a boot constantly this season already, twice is rumours to be told.
Yeah,
suggests to me he might come back. I mean, even the right hand side, like everyone, like someone said to me yesterday, "Oh, when's Burns back?" Well, don't expect Prime Burns to become back. He hasn't kicked a ball since January, and it's supposed to be sort of soonish, isn't it? But even then, it's weird, isn't it? In that they've actually spent 20 million quid over the last 2 seasons on 2 players. In McAteer, who's starting on the bench, and Benny, who's gone to Bramall Lane and Sheffield United. I mean, they're both weird signings, those, weren't they? Sort of out of left field. They've come in. Neither. Well, one's not in the ground anymore. One's been spent 12 million quid. He's on the bench. Weird, just weird decision making there for me that hasn't really been addressed in the media. Surprisingly,
it won't be, will it? It won't be. It won't.
I think with McAteer, can I just coming in on that point? I mean, he's brought in, and we're saying, well, we've paid this money for him. He's sat on the bench. We've got Ogbene. I just wonder sometimes with the smoke screen that he's gone out loan to get game time. That's sometimes a smoke screen. I don't think you can gaslight fans enough. I think generally people go out on loan because they want to bring someone else in to try to improve the team. But I mean, McKenna can't come out and say that, and I might be wrong. But if he was really going to be first choice, he'd stay at the club. So if Ogbene was the future, he would still be at the club. And in the case of McAteer, it's quite easy for us all to hit here and say, well, he's on the bench. We paid a lot of money for him. He's not come on. But if you think about the context of the game, you've got Philogene, who's on fire at the moment, who's the most likely to score. You can't take him up. At the moment, he's the player you can't take off. But you want to bring Jack Clark on. So Jack Clark, you want him to come on the left because that's where he scored his 4 goals. So you've got to move Philogene to the right, or you take Philogene off and you bring McAteer on. But as the game's going, you want to keep Philogene on the pitch. So that's the reason that McAteer hasn't come on at that stage. I agree with the point around why McAteer over Ogbene, because that however million could have really gone in. I said
we could have afforded the striker.
Where's that striker? Where is that striker? Yeah, you might have to pay a little bit more, but perhaps that striker is out there, but it's hard to get hold of. But I guess it's easier when the old transfer market's to and fro, and then you're trying to get the squads settled. But I think with Burns, it wouldn't surprise me if we get to January and Burns gets fit that he goes up on loan.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Kills me. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm not saying it should, but I just wonder because it's an awful injury that he's had. And when you're trying, when you're relying, you've got the money, you've got a big squad, you've got a big budget. Burns is an asset to the club. Don't get me wrong, but if you're asking Burns to come in and get us on a promotion push between February and April, given the injury that he's had. Is that really asking too much of the player? Should we settle with what we've got? And I just wonder. But anyway, probably a different question. But
might be. Schmonics works hard, but that's his job, as Roy Keane would say. And I laughed at the start of your points there because I suddenly realised that I could block out Matt Phillips, and I never even know I could when he's down there because I was trying to make it smaller so people could see Matt, appreciate when he makes a point. But when you go to that,
I'm gone.
He just leaves it all together. He's got it together.
It's making no sense on Spotify to anybody.
No, it's just brilliant. I just thought anytime I don't like what he's talking about, I can just, there you go. Come on. Anyway.
New buttons.
Absolutely. Right. Joining us now is Colin. Colin, welcome in. What's your thoughts this evening?
Hi, Colin.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we?
All good? All good?
Not too good. Town are not great away and we didn't get 3 points. So I'll be honest, I'm not doing $1 million. No, I'm not.
No. Well, I couldn't go last night, unfortunately. Got a couple of tickets for QPR and Swansea, so be back on the road in the next couple of 3 weeks. But Obviously, I watched it on Sky last night, and just like you gentlemen, really, I thought we started not too bad. I mean, when Kieran said about after the game about the game became chaotic. If I'm being totally honest with you, I think he's being very kind. I think it was worse than that. You don't very often hear me, Gov, Matt, or Lee be very harsh. I'm very, very seldom that. But I'm going to be harsh tonight. I thought that our defending last night, Lee, Matt, and Gov, was arguably as bad as I've seen definitely in the last 3 seasons. I mean, our defending at times, Gov, was shocking. It was shocking. I mean, I was watching it in front. I don't often watch the TV, as you know, Gov, Matt and Lee. But I'm watching, and then I'm getting replays, and I'm seeing like 2 at the back, 3 at the back at very best, and they're all. I'm sorry to get riled here. I'm getting a bit riled. They're all dragged over onto the left-hand side, like a magnet. It's all been. What on earth is going on, Gov? Please tell me.
I don't know if you saw after. I think it was after the game. Paul Merson said it was more like a cup quarter final in the extra time stage, as opposed to a league game. The way we were allowing those 2v1s, 3v2s situations, and I can't disagree with him. As much as it really was.
And I mean, Aidy said about it on his pipeline thing, and quite rightly so. I mean, and Mike D went over it. And I think you gentlemen have. I mean, if it hadn't been look, we've got to be totally honest here. Okay, we had chances, yes. We did have chances. We had good chances. But Middlesbrough had quite a few more. I mean, if it hadn't been for the Palmer, we could have possibly lost that by 3 or 4 goals last night.
Yeah.
Palmer was exceptional last night.
Yeah.
He was exceptional. He was the only player on that pitch who was exceptional. He was the only player on that pitch who was anywhere near an 8. I'll tell you what it was, Gov, Matt and Lee there last night. I'll tell you what it was. Out of the 11 players who started that game, excluding Palmer, there was too many 4s on that pitch last night. 4s. Too many 4s. And you can't go to a team that at the time was second, and I think now are again second, right? You can't go to a second place championship side, can you, Lee? Gov, Matt, and play like that.
No, I agree. Totally agree.
You can't, Gov. You can't.
And that's what I was saying earlier about principles and philosophies, and sometimes away from home, you've got to change them. You've got to think differently.
Yeah. And also, Gov, I'm so pleased you let me come on tonight, because I'm letting go my emotions. I was really... Venetia came home last night. She'd been out, come home. Actually, she came home just during a half-time break. She opened the living room door. Matt knows I live. Living room door. And she said, "You look so riled, Colin." I said, "But I am." It was just after I'd seen a penalty miss and I've seen an own goal. Right? She said, "You look so riled." And I was so riled because, like Matt quite rightly said, it was a 1-0 up, and then all of a sudden you've gone to the dressing room 1-0 down. We've all been in dressing rooms. We all know what that half-time talk would have been like and is going to be like, right? But I've got to get on to this point, and I'm not saying I've got a saying, Gov. You know I have. I never agree for agreement's sake. I don't do it on my own person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said to Andrew, when we got given that penalty, I could not for the life of me, I actually put it on your chat, Gov, before I came on, I couldn't believe for the life of me when there's a person who's got confidence coming out of his ears, why Philogene did not have that penalty. He's beating goalkeepers from 30 yards.
Yeah.
All ends up. You know?
Agreed. Yeah,
I personally think he would have sent the keeper the wrong way. He's got confidence out of his ears. And look, I suppose in a way I feel sorry for Hurst. You know, because he's been put into a position not by his own fault, really. My son's been saying it for months. Ian, I'm talking about. He's banged on about it, and he was back. Oh God Almighty! He was at Borough last night. I was getting texts coming left, right, and centre from Ian. You know, because he banged on about what not getting a striker, and quite rightly so. And Ian is very, very level-headed, and he's very, very, when he's got a point, he'll stick to it. And he's been saying it since August. And he's been absolutely proved to be 100% right.
Yes, spot on.
You know, it's been a mistake, hasn't it, Gov?
Yeah, and we all said as much in the summer, and we were all prepared to obviously give benefit of the doubt and see how it shaped up and all these different things. But yeah, you can't argue when you look at how we play, particularly away from home, that you would say we're missing that centre forward. And Nigel said it's just like you, hurts when your team lets you down, but take it from me, Colin, you'll be in the promotion race end of the season. And Trevor says perhaps Palmer doesn't pass like Pirlo, but he stops the ball going in the net, and that's his job, as Roy would say, which is fair. Anything else, Colin, before we sort of wrap up ahead of the hour mark?
Well, just only, Gov, Lee and Matt, would you all agree with me that I personally think, I mean, I'm not one of these people who, you should rip the paperwork up and throw it out the window, so to speak. I'm far from that, Gov, you know that. But I personally think for Tuesday night, we're in this 3-game week, and we'll be in several of them before Christmas. And I don't think it just applies to this week. I think it applies from now until kind of Christmas time, if not maybe just after. But especially this week coming, I firmly believe we've got. Well, you're going to have to make the change in midfield anyway, because Matasviwa is suspended. That is a given. He's suspended. So Nunes comes in for me. I personally think, however you're going to do this, look, one thing I never do, I never ever get on players' backs. It's no good. That's no good to anybody. With young Egali, I'm a great lover of him. I think he'll be a fantastic player for this club. But I think maybe on Tuesday night, I think that's a game too early in this game of 3, and you've got 2 options there. You can either bring McAteer back, or you can maybe do it like the way we did in the second half, put Philogene over there and bring Clark in.
Yeah.
Ivan has got to start for me.
Okay.
Look, this rubbish, what has been, quoted from a certain player who left our football club, when he keeps stating different things. I don't want to say it because I don't want to get myself in any trouble, right? But a certain player who keeps saying things about, what's going on at the football club. Will you please just leave that certain player who left our football club? Will you please leave it, right? And get on with your job, and we'll get on with ours, right? I don't overly like that. I've had to say that. What he's been saying about our football club. Yeah, we loved him to bits, and I still love the lad, right? But don't keep, you play for a certain club now, and you're doing all right. Get on with it. Leave us alone, right?
This is it.
Leave us alone.
Great comment. Great words, Colin. We appreciate you. Try and calm down. Enjoy your Saturday night. We appreciate you. Look after yourself. All right. And great points from Colin. Can't argue with too many of them. STST says no matter how good Egley is, he's only 19. We can't expect too much. James trying to start as on a Nunes regularly, not just as a midweek alternative. And Simon says Chelsea made 3 subs at half time today. McKenna never makes any big decisions like that, which is you can't argue with it. I don't know if that was how many they made at half time or not, but it always does feel a little bit predetermined, does it not, Matthew Phillips?
Yeah, it does. It just made me think of when Joe Royal was in charge. I remember he made a triple sub at Deepdale against Preston. We were like 1 or 2 down or whatever. Yeah, McKenna does. They are pretty predictable subs. I mean, it was predictable, wasn't it? What does Sky say? Here comes the Ipswich Cavalry in blue shirts, a quadruple sub. I was like,
that can't be right. That can't be right when you've got like almost that calling out on Coventry in the sense of, oh, here they come. It must be that time. Like that's so. Surely, if the commentary team are finding it that predictable, Matt, what are opposition analysts finding it?
Yeah, exactly that. Did you notice the guy that like Pete Waterman sitting on Middlesbrough's bench next to Rob Edwards?
I did. Yeah, the assistant manager. I googled him in the end. I was like, I wonder, is he assistant manager? Is he an analyst? But go on, Lee, you're going to come back on that point. What were you saying?
I just going back to the point about the substitutions. I just feel yes, they're normally pre-planned, aren't they? There's normally a time you're going to change your front four, you're going to bring on, you're going to fresher, you're bringing on your finishers, a bit like the rugby. Do you remember going back when England were flying high and it was all about picking your team, bringing your finishers on to win you the game and all this sort of stuff because the games are all tight. I don't totally agree with the point because McKenna has made half-time substitutions. And I'm thinking back to his name's got my head. The guy who came from who played for Norwich, the right centre back. What's his name? He came in for
Ben Godfrey.
He had an absolute shocker, didn't he? He was pulled off at half time. He was pulled off. So I think there's shockers and there's shockers, isn't there? And I
Spurs, wasn't it? I think it was the Spurs game.
Yeah. So whilst last night it's easy to say, let's get the substitutions early. Last night, I think the substitutions made a difference. I think our bench on because we got a goal back and we sort of clawed. Didn't get us obviously right back into the game.
We even covered our goal, haven't we?
No. But and then again, I suppose then people say, well, we should have brought them all on at half time. Then we wouldn't have conceded the second. But I think half an hour in football for 4 subs is pretty. It's a third of the game. And I think when you're making 4 subs after 85 minutes or 80 minutes, that makes it a little bit more difficult.
Equally, you also have to look at what's in front of you. And last night, if not half time, there was certainly a case much earlier than he made them to bring the substitutions on. We were not good.
I think if you're trying.
But then I'm the type of manager, Lee, that the moment the ball hits the back of the net at 2-0 down, I'd be turning around and telling every single player back there to get unchanged, get going on.
Well, you've got to,
because that's my reaction as a manager.
Control your emotions.
You fight now. Yeah, but you sometimes got to show it's unacceptable or it's not worked, and you've got to sometimes just deviate a little bit. Be flexible, I guess.
But is it the front four's fault that we've just conceded a second goal? I mean, you've got to think about I've seen it many times myself. You're trying to work out what's going to happen in the game. It's all going through your mind, and you're trying to see what's happening.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the point, you have to accept that most of the time it feels like we're making the substitutions on 60, 65 minutes. It's all pre-planned, and we're not reacting to what's in the game environment. I get that point, and you can see that as fans. We all sit on the sides watching it and think, why aren't you doing that? But I think when you've got someone who's methodical and the way he's process-driven like McKenna, I just think that's sometimes all part of the makeup, and you've got to react. So if you bring on your golden 4, I don't know if that's the right word, but if you're bringing on those people after
he's pressing the golden buzzer, look at Simon Cowell over there.
Yeah.
After 45 minutes, when the opposition's had a chance to rest and they're not going to run them ragged. If you think, well, if I bring him on 65, 75 minutes, if you're one of the back 4 and they see those changes at half time, I'm thinking to myself, I'm glad they have made them at half time and they didn't make them in the 70th minute when I'm hanging out my backside, and then they bring all these players on and you've then got to cope with them. There's more to that.
You're 2-0 down, Lee. The game's going. It's slipping away. You're 2-0 down.
Yeah, but it was,
it's all right. It's only 5 minutes having fresh legs. But if the game's gone already, it don't matter, does it? Yeah, but you have a game plan. You can't always just throw everything out the window to start with, in my view. So I mean, that's the way McKenna does it. And I agree. And you can't do it all the time, Lee. But I guess what I'm asking for really is just one time, give me Miles Kenlock coming on as a striker. Like, that's all I want. I'm missing those days. We get a random sub in a random place. I guess under your theory, what you're saying is, so when Leif Davis falls over and he's really weak for their first goal, Jacob Greaves up front. Do something crazy. That's all I'm asking for. A little bit of craziness. Yeah, absolutely. Why not, Lee? All right, why not? Anyway, we're done.
Be calm.
Well, we can't go without saying we scored a set piece goal, can we? It was a very good goal from O'Shea. Lovely ball in from Nunes. Yeah. That's one bonus, isn't it? In the last two games, so Norwich, we saw O'Shea at the far post, heads it down. Kipre, when everyone thought he was great, scoring the opening goal. It was a great run from O'Shea last night, and a great delivery in. I mean, that's maybe, one reason why. Well, Nunes is probably going to play on Tuesdays because of Matt Seawell, but one of the reasons why we want Nunes on the pitch for those deliveries, because we didn't see that at all last night, up until it was too late, really.
How many times is a broken clock right, Matt?
Couple a day. Yeah.
Now you've got your 2 set piece goals. I want to see more now. I want to see more before I start
the standard's been
crowning them and saying we're improving in that regard. All right, because the broken clock is right twice. So let's see what happens. Because I thought, other than that O'Shea header, which I thought was a lovely goal, well worked set piece, round of applause. But ultimately, other than that, our set pieces were as per usual. They weren't good. And then there was probably going into the 94th minute or wherever it was. There was that lack of urgency to get the ball into the box. There was too much playing around. It goes back to the bloody halfway line at one point. I was like, and then Furlong gets the throw. The guy with the longest throw in the Football League has a chance to launch it into the box. He plays it short. Yeah. I said this last night on the match reaction show. I said sometimes as a football club, it's okay to put the ball in the box and be okay with that. Like, too many times it starts with the right winger, then it goes all the way across the length of the 18-yard box, back into the central midfield players, then back to O'Shea and Kipre.
Is that a lack of accountability in not wanting to make the mistake that brings the attack to the end?
That's the coach and the philosophy about making the space. When you look at that final minute, that passage of play, we had 3 players at the back post. There was 3 players at the back of that, on the edge of that 6-yard box at the back, waiting for that ball to come in. Yeah. And there was 2, and it wasn't like they were under pressure. You were right. There was 2 or 3 times where that ball could have been whipped in. That ball should have gone into that box at that time, but it's almost like you could have had 2 bites of the cherry. You could have whipped that in. It would have come out because they were on their 6-yard box. We'd have recycled it again, and we got another whipped crossing. We only got the one crossing because we spent too much time deliberately trying to work that space. And it comes back to, it's almost a game management point, isn't it? Where, you've got to read the situation of the game. You've got to realise that ball has, at that point, has to go in, and that comes down to the individual. To be fair, and you're hoping that players aren't overcoached in terms of that. That's.
Yeah, but just let them know from the sidelines. Get the ball in the box. A bit like today, Burnley, when you see the Premier League goals, they get a goal against Leeds from a cross in the box. It's a great ball from Walker. It's a good headed goal. It's no bad thing about putting the ball in the box. And sometimes we treat it like it's the worst. The worst thing we could do on a football field is put that ball into the box. And we need to be brave about that.
Causes chaos, doesn't it? As defenders, if the ball's being played in front of you, you think, I've got 20 seconds, the ball's not there. But as soon as that ball's put in and it causes mayhem, the ball's bobbling around, a bit like the chance that they had where Palmer makes a save, it's bobbling around, it's kicked around. We had a moment like that in the second half as well, just a smaller moment. We didn't have as many phases, but you want that sort of panic because it makes them panic. They're going to sit back a little bit further. Yeah. We don't, I think as a team, we don't have that direct drive that really pushes teams back, or when they are back, we're not stretching them enough.
All right, right, we're going to end it there. We are now going to record your match preview show to be released tomorrow. But thank you for joining us on our live podcast. This has been a wonderful evening. really chewing the fat and getting rid of last night's frustrations and emotions. Everything Talking Town is, weekly therapy for the diehard fan. Exactly what we do here. But the media mogul Matthew Phillips, don't look back in anger. He's going to stop looking back altogether now. Mr. Lee Anderson.
Half a world away.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are done. We are dusted. Thanks for watching. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe. See you soon. You've reached the end. Thank you so much for watching. Hit here to subscribe. It's totally free. And hit here for more Talking Town videos. I'll see you on the next one.